Once engineers have a 3D model of a newly discovered ore deposit, they have to decide exactly how to pull it out of the earth. It is the single most expensive and irreversible engineering choice in the life cycle of any project. This animated matrix lays out the two overarching categories of extraction: open pit mining and underground mining. Each comes with massive, opposing trade-offs in economics, safety, and environmental impact. Open pit extraction is entirely surface-based. You remove all the overlying rock and dirt, peeling the earth back layer by layer to expose the ore body to the open sky. Underground mining takes the opposite approach. Instead of stripping away the surface, engineers dig a highly targeted network of shafts and tunnels to reach the ore body from the inside out. Engineers don't choose between these methods based on personal preference. The decision permanently locks in the project's financial margins, its safety profile, and its environmental footprint for the next several decades. The math favors an open pit when a deposit sits close to the surface, stretches wide, and is covered by a manageable volume of overlying waste rock. Under those shallow conditions, operations can achieve massive economies of scale. Surface access allows fleets of ultra-class haul trucks, single vehicles that can carry several hundred tons of rock in a single load. Because workers and heavy machinery operate under the open sky, rather than inside constrained rock tunnels, open pit extraction is cheaper per ton and generally safer to operate. But those financial and safety benefits come at an extreme environmental cost. Extracting shallow ore requires disturbing a vastly larger surface area, completely reshaping the local landscape. A surface mine trades intensive environmental surface destruction for unmatched financial scale and operational safety. The entire financial viability of an open pit comes down to a single calculation: the strip ratio. That is the exact volume of zero-value waste rock you have to blast and haul away just to reach 1 unit of profitable ore. This chart shows the tipping point. As a pit goes deeper, it has to get wider to maintain stable walls. That means the amount of waste rock you have to remove increases exponentially. Eventually, the cost of moving that waste catches up to the value of the ore you're digging up. Right at this intersection point, the strip ratio fails economically. The deposit is now mathematically too deep, or too narrow, to justify surface extraction. Moving the operation underground saves you the enormous cost of hauling away surface waste, but it demands a substantially higher initial capital investment relative to the total tonnage you can extract. Depth, shape, and waste volume dictate this limit. Once the math crosses that line, the mine must transition below ground, regardless of what the operators might prefer. This decision tree maps out what happens next. Once underground mining is mandated, engineers must select from a suite of highly specialized extraction methods based entirely on the geometry of the deposit. For flat, tabular deposits spread out horizontally, they use room and pillar mining. Miners carve out grid-like rooms of ore, intentionally leaving behind pillars of unmined rock to physically hold up the ceiling. For vertical or irregularly shaped deposits, cut and fill is common. Operators mine horizontal slices of ore, then backfill the empty void with waste rock to create a stable floor so they can drill into the next slice above. Massive, deep deposits with lower grades require block caving. Engineers excavate a hollow layer beneath the ore body, forcing a massive block of rock to progressively collapse under its own weight so it can be funneled out from below. And in coal extraction, longwall mining deploys a massive shearing machine across a wide horizontal face. As the machine carves forward, heavy hydraulic shields protect the workers, while the roof is allowed to intentionally collapse behind them. There is no single best underground technique. The immutable physical geometry and grade of the deposit dictate the only viable engineering solution. Going underground preserves the surface landscape, but it forces crews to operate in an environment actively trying to crush or suffocate them. The air doesn't cycle itself. Mines have to install and continuously run massive industrial fans to clear out toxic drill gases, manage diesel exhaust, and prevent explosive accumulation in the enclosed spaces. And the rock won't hold itself up. Tunnels require expensive, continuous artificial support. Crews install heavy rock bolts and mesh deep into the tunnel walls to clamp the rock mass together and prevent catastrophic cave-ins. The highest risk phase for any operation is a pushback. the years-long transition when an open pit reaches its mathematical depth limit, and the company has to start tunneling underneath it. This requires highly complex engineering to manage the extreme risk. You have crews actively blasting heavy surface rock at the base of the pit, while simultaneous construction teams are digging delicate tunnel networks directly below them. Underground operations successfully eliminate the thousands of tons of surface waste, but they replace that burden with a perpetual, high-cost battle against gravity and air quality. This quadrant chart models the final decision matrix. It weighs the raw life cycle costs of the operation against external environmental and community tolerances. Open pit extraction sits right here. It is highly preferred for pure profit margins and efficiency per ton, but it guarantees a massive long-term land rehabilitation liability. Underground extraction plots over here. It demands significantly higher upfront capital from investors, but it keeps the surface intact, which is critical for securing regulatory approval in environmentally sensitive areas. There is rarely a perfect choice. The final extraction method is a calculated compromise between maximizing investor returns and respecting local environmental constraints. Once the financial modeling is done and the permits are signed, the physical trajectory of the mine is set. The company is officially committed to either expanding a massive surface crater or constructing towering steel headframes to drop workers thousands of feet into the dark. But deciding on the geometric blueprint is just theory. Actually extracting the ore requires fracturing millions of tons of solid bedrock. To turn the plan into a functioning mine, engineers have to master the violent physics of breaking rock. In our next episode, we break down the exact science of industrial blasting and rock fragmentation.